Friends on YouTube, this story is about a group of explorers that discovered a deserted island in the Pacific Ocean. While exploring the island, they found that it was inhabited by people with physical deformities, and other areas were inhabited by tribes of giants. Please support us by liking the video and subscribing to the channel. The Cursed Island. The year 1812 was a time of iron and blood, but for the crew of the British merchant vessel, the Integrity, it was the beginning of an odyssey that defied the boundaries of human reason. The ship had been blown off course by a hurricane that seemed to scream with a sentient fury, pushing them into a pocket of the South Pacific that did not exist on any Admiralty chart. Captain Owen, a man whose face was a map of scars and unspoken regrets, stood at the prow. Beside him, William, the ship's surgeon and a secret scholar of the arcane, gripped the railing so hard his knuckles turned white. Wyatt, the bosun, a mountain of a man who had once strangled a shark to save a comrade, checked the flintlocks of their pistols. And at the center of it all was Rory, the youngest member of the crew, a lad of 16 who possessed an uncanny ability to hear the song of the ocean before a storm arrived. When the mist finally parted, they saw an island that looked like a jagged tooth of obsidian rising from a sea of churning turquoise. They dropped anchor and rowed ashore, seeking fresh water and timber to repair their broken masts. The moment their boots touched the sand, the air felt thick, vibrating with a low-frequency hum that made their teeth ache. As they moved inland, the tropical beauty of the island gave way to a twisted nightmare. The vegetation was warped. Flowers bloomed with the texture of raw meat, and trees grew in spirals that mimicked DNA strands. In the shadows of the lower valleys, they encountered the first inhabitants. These were the deformed. They were humans, or what remained of them. One man had eyes that moved independently on stalks. Another woman had skin that had hardened into a bark-like armor. Her fingers fused into jagged claws. They did not speak. They communicated through a series of rhythmic clicks and hisses. When the explorers tried to offer peace, the deformed responded with a coordinated, feral violence. A skirmish erupted in the dense undergrowth. Wyatt used the butt of his rifle to fend off a creature that leaped with spider-like agility, while Owen's saber hummed through the air. These people fought not for food or land, but out of a deep ancestral resentment. To them, the symmetrical bodies of the sailors were a mockery of their own suffering. They fought to drag the explorers down into the mud, to break them as they were broken. Only a desperate retreat behind a wall of musket fire allowed the four men to escape into the higher, mist-covered ridges. As the explorers climbed, the air purified. The stench of decay was replaced by the scent of ozone and honey. They crested a ridge and froze. Before them lay a city built of white marble and gold, scaled for beings of impossible size. Out of the golden gates stepped the giants. They stood 20 to 30 feet tall, their bodies the pinnacle of human aesthetic perfection. Their skin glowed with a faint, bioluminescent warmth. Unlike the deformed, the giants welcomed the travelers with a gentle, booming grace. Their leader, a colossus named Aethelos, spoke in a language that sounded like a pipe organ. Over the next few weeks, a strange, beautiful conventional coexistence took root. The giants were scholars and artists. They shared star wine, a liquid that heightened the explorers' senses, and began teaching them their tongue. William was obsessed with their history, while Rory found himself enchanted by a giantess named Lyra, who showed him how they moved mountains with sound. The giants seemed like gods, and for a moment Owen considered never returning to the world of war and mud. The peace was a mask. One night, William slipped into the Great Archive, a hall of crystal pillars. Using his knowledge of Latin and Greek to bridge the gap with the giant's tongue, he discovered the truth. This island was a biological laboratory. Centuries ago, the giants had arrived from another realm. They were the architects. The deformed were not a separate race. They were the failed drafts, the offspring of the original human inhabitants, whom the giants had experimented on to refine their own perfect forms. The giants weren't being kind out of love. They were observing Owen and his men to see how pure human stock had evolved in their absence. Even worse, William found a blueprint for a ritual: the reaping. The giants needed the fresh genetic material of the explorers to maintain their immortality, which was beginning to fade. Rory, with his heightened senses, was to be the first donor. "We leave tonight, or we become part of their history," Owen whispered as the four met in the shadows of the giant orchards. The escape was a heart-pounding race against time. They stole a light sled, a platform that glided on magnetic currents, and raced toward the coast. But as they descended back into the Valley of the Broken, the deformed were waiting. In a shocking twist, the deformed had sensed the giants' pursuit. They didn't want the explorers to escape. They wanted to kill them to spite the giants, depriving their masters of the fresh blood they needed. The finale was a chaotic three-way war on the Obsidian Beach. The giants arrived like thunder, their footsteps causing small earthquakes. From the trees, hundreds of the deformed swarmed, using their twisted bodies to trip the giants, biting at their heels with venomous teeth. Wyatt stood his ground at the water's edge, firing his last rounds to clear a path to the longboat. Rory was grabbed by a giant's hand, but a deformed warrior, perhaps acting on a flicker of forgotten humanity, stabbed the giant's finger, forcing him to drop the boy. "Row, row for your lives," Owen screamed as they pushed the boat into the surf. Behind them, the beach was a hellscape of gold and gray. The giants were crushing the deformed by the dozen, but the sheer numbers of the broken were pulling the golden gods down into the dark sand. As the integrity caught the wind and vanished into the fog of 1812, the island began to sink, a self-destruct mechanism triggered by the dying architects. William looked at his empty hands, having left his journals behind. "The world isn't ready," he muttered. Owen looked at the horizon, his eyes cold. They had seen the peak in the abyss of the human soul, and they would never speak of it again.